Good morning.
It is morning. Folks, I really appreciate you spending a Friday afternoon with me here. It's not Friday afternoon where this gentleman is, but we've got some really special things happening right now. I'm going to start things off. I do want to thank Five Star Guitar for helping make this happen. They've been remarkable in helping me get fantastic equipment. We've got Audix microphones back here and a really special event featuring this gentleman that I'm going to be speaking with coming up on June 13th. Abducted by the 80s is putting on a Back to the Basement benefit for direct relief, and that is benefiting the frontline workers that are dealing with the COVID fight. And so we are trying to help medical workers and all the professionals that are dealing with this, the front line of the coronavirus. And my next guest is one of the featured artists that's going to partake in this beautiful event that takes place on June 13th. If you go to www.abductedbythe80s.com, you can see a little more information. You can sign up and get some amazing gifts. But I would love to present to you that featured artist that is one of the kindest gentlemen I've ever met. And I don't take that for granted. I really want you to know that if you don't already know him, this is one of the sweetest men I know. So with no further ado, please welcome my buddy, David STERRY.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning, Kevin. And I say good morning. You said afternoon.
Okay. It is.
So how does it feel being able to speak to the future, Kevin? Because I'm talking to you from tomorrow. It is Saturday morning here. Do you need me to look up the papers and see which horses won the race or the winning lottery numbers so you can try to get them in before they're drawn or something?
Maybe you can give me a little stock tip, and see if I can.
Stock tip would be good. Yeah.
Dave, honestly, my challenge and my efforts have been this year in trying to live in the present. And so this is really difficult for me, right? If I know that I'm having a future trip, then I've got to be really grounded and zen. So maybe you can help me with that.
The worst thing is about that is when I go to America and I fly from Melbourne, where I live, to LA is usually my first stop. And the strange thing is you arrive an hour before you left.
Oh yeah. Oh, that's crazy. But
yeah, you got to get your head around that.
I would imagine the only time it really affects you is if you've got call times and you've got to be on air, you've got to be on stage, right? Otherwise, it's just relative, right?
Yeah, it's all relative,
And we don't sleep as musicians, right? So.
No, we don't. We don't have regular hours, do we?
Yeah. No,
I was
until
thinking
now.
about that. Yeah, I was thinking about that with the tour last year. That apart from all the wonderful glamour of when you walk on stage, and it is wonderful and glamorous. But it was, for me, it was always get up at 3 a.m. in the morning, get a shuttle to the airport, a couple of hours getting through security, onto the plane to wherever you were going, short flight or long flight, hoping your hotel room's ready so you can have a shower before you head to sound check to do the gig, back to the hotel, back to set the alarm for 3 a.m. again.
Yeah. That's the glamour of this business.
That's the glamour.
Right?
Oh, yeah.
People don't think about that when they come to the show and they get to see "Send Me an Angel," and
they don't.
And then they get to meet you backstage, and they think, "Oh, what a wonderful man! He's got such a beautiful life, and he's singing his heart out. I'm sure he's making millions of dollars and getting the greatest treatment." And then they don't see that behind the scenes, David's getting no sleep. There's nobody there to do your makeup after or before.
No.
But the glamour of the show, though.
But what else would you want to do with your life anyway? It's a life making music is not a life wasted.
That's absolutely true.
Whether you're successful or not, making music is just the reward in itself.
It's great to have that perspective. Sometimes people kind of overlook that when they're in the rat race and they're trying to do the grind. But if it doesn't feel like a job, right? If you do what you love, then it's never work, right? And there are other friends of ours in this business, Chris Olivas and Amanda, that are just huge Dave STERRY fans.
Yeah, well, I know. Well, I've never met Amanda actually, but Chris came out here with Berlin in 2016, and of course, and Dave Schultz, of course.
Oh, Schulze, yeah,
Schulze. But we go back to the very first time Real Life toured the USA was in 1984. We did a whole lap of the country with Eurythmics. It was our first tour. And then we went through Canada on our own and then came down the East Coast again with Berlin. So we got to know them. And we were like a family of, we're these new bands that were on the scene. and we'd had these, hits that, people weren't sure where we were going to go from there. And I guess we're also struggling to deal with our success. We didn't know how to handle being rock stars or whatever. And we're still friends to this day, with Terry and the old guys, the older band too, Rick Olson, guitar players, a dear friend in Nashville now.
Be careful when you say the old guys, right?
Well, I'm probably
I know
older than all of you. I just turned 66 last week, so
last week. That's right. Happy birthday, my friend.
I've lost your audio there, my friend. Are you still?
Yeah,
there?
you can't hear me.
Just dropped out. Can you hear me?
I can hear you well.
I'll have to lip read.
No,
I can't hear you.
Let's see.
There you are.
Okay, yeah.
What are you doing? Stop fiddling with things.
I was making sure that my mic was still connected. But yeah, it says
dropped out.
that.
I thought, oh no.
No, yeah, you're just gonna have to look
lips.
at you'll have to see my beautiful face. No, I think you talked about well, first of all, happy belated birthday. That's a wonderful thing. Thank you for this. And you talked about dealing with the success and the second round. You've actually had 2 chapters in your life of real life success. And you want to let's
strange.
Let's jump back to the early days, right? You want to let me know a little bit about how the band formed and took off?
Yeah, well, I guess it was 1980 here in Melbourne, and a friend of mine came banging on my door with an advert from the local newspaper for musicians, and he's going, David, you've got to ring this number. You've got to ring this number. And I looked at it, and it said keyboard player seeking guitar player to write songs. And I thought, yeah, that's what I want. And I finally made the call to Richard Zatorsky, who was my original songwriting partner and band former. And we got together, and we initially wanted to just write songs for other people. We didn't really want to necessarily be a band, but we started writing, and then Richard decided, hey, let's make a band out of this. And we kept writing. We'd been writing at least a year or so, trying to learn to write before we would go and play. We never played a cover song at all. We said, no, we have to write things.
Wow.
It was that fabulous new wave era when songs were kind of really quirky. You didn't have to write a great Beatles song or a great structured song. You had all these quirky new wave things. So we were good at that. And we started a band, and we started playing the pubs. We initially had a drum machine called a Roland Boss Dr. Rhythm or something.
No, we're just going to skip right over that. No, I'm just kidding. I'm joking. No, okay. So you had a Dr. Rhythm.
We got into trouble that there was the guy who was a mastering engineer that I was talking to yesterday. He was in a band called Little River Band a long time ago.
Of course, yeah.
And when we first started, this is the guitar player, David Briggs. We took our demo tape to him, and we just started playing some shows. And, we said, yeah, we're using this drum machine. And he said, that's un-Australian. You cannot have a drum machine in a band. That's so un-Australian. And I reminded him of that yesterday. And
just, nice.
Fell over laughing. But we're always playing, and we're looking at each other going, no, it needs to be faster, faster. So our bass player, who was in charge of the Dr. Rhythm, was always going, brrr.
Yeah, that actually
as fast as we could.
Those had sliders for tempo, didn't they? Or no, it was you had to up button.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's not easy to do while you're playing live.
No, you're playing live. Oh, we were pretty good. Speeding up.
Just before we got on this chat, I mentioned to David. I said, it's because he said I'm always on time or early, right? Always very prompt and.
It's called anxiety.
Punctual.
It's anxiety.
Right. Yeah. But I said, it's not like the stereotypical drummer that's always late. And you said,
I said, well, they're on time if they've got a click track.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. Sorry. Was that a drummer joke?
I
didn't mean that. I didn't mean that.
I know. It's good to rib the drummer. I was talking to
you must know a guitar player joke. Come on, tell me a guitar player or a singer. Oh, I know a great singer joke.
Actually, okay. I want to hear your singer joke, but one thing people might not know until they see you live is that you really are, and you're an accomplished guitarist. You're not just a singer up front.
I can't put my fingers in my ears.
Yeah,
I'm getting embarrassed now.
My favorite thing on tour was just watching you rip, right? Like,
I saw that funny thing of you talking to the Marty from backstage, and I'm like a couple of conspirators there, talking away, and I go, hey, that's me in the background. I can hear me singing in the background. It was really funny. Marty Gerard.
Yeah, Marty Gerard
Yeah.
from the Motels.
Yes,
Was that at the
yes.
Greek? No, that was in Denver at
It was
Fiddler's
in
Green.
Denver, I think. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I
Do you?
remember.
Can I? I'm thinking about when you don't want to lose memory of all the shows and things.
Yeah,
I have this little game I play. I can, if you tell me a show, I can see the stage and remember the gig. But can you put that gig with the catering and the hotel for that night?
I can always put it with catering. The
Can
hotel,
you?
well, yeah, for sure. I mean, but we all stayed in different places, and
Yeah, we did.
we didn't have a hotel in Denver because we drove through the night and
Yeah,
left right after the
yeah,
gig. One thing about A Flock of Seagulls is that seagulls were the only ones that don't fly, right? That was the
yeah,
joke. So
yeah.
it was it was rare that we actually. I guess we did hotels about half the time,
Yeah.
but maybe more than half. I guess now that I think about it, but there was no hotel in Denver. But I can
Yeah.
always do catering because we did Fiddlers or the year
Fiddler's.
before.
Oh yeah, and
the
that was one of the best.
Yeah,
It was
really,
fabulous. Yeah.
catering is amazing. And you went up that rampway, and you had the whole of the building. It was all
Yeah.
yeah,
It was
yeah.
beautiful. Yeah.
This is something we don't talk about very often on this show, but Lost 80s Live was it's a remarkable gathering of bands, personalities. You had the whole 80s experience that really brought people back to a point that was really entertaining, less pressure. You could lose drama and just come out and hang and see all these bands that you loved. But there were other experiences that went along with it. Everybody be dressed up in their stuff from the 80s. They had meet and greet packages that were kind of 80s themed. And some of the venues and some of the bookers were putting together 80s kind of outside. I don't know if you ever saw that before. Like we do sound checks, and I'd go outside the venue and I'd walk around and take pictures of the venues. And some places had things just decorated. It was all like you were in 1987, 88. And of course, we're on a hiatus a little bit right now. A lot of our friends that are watching this probably right now had plans to come out see us this summer. But this next summer.
I mean, that's just mentioning that briefly. It's so sad for everybody, not just the bands, but a lot of the crews. We have organizations to support our road crews here, like charities and benefits that people are doing. People are playing, they're doing drive-in concerts and doing home concerts and doing all sorts of things to put it together. But also, you really feel for the audience as well, because people need to go and we were doing that benefit next week for the health workers and everything.
Right.
I used to think it was, when people start treating you like a rock star and making out you're important, I used to go, look, no, we're not. I'm not a surgeon. I'm not a doctor. I haven't got a cure for cancer or something like that. I'm not a cleaner. Or the people who are stacking the shelves in the supermarkets are brave going to work in this situation.
Yeah.
But you sort of think, okay, yeah, I'm unworthy. You're doing something really remarkable. But then music is the glue that joins everybody together. So those people who do such great jobs to relax and de-stress from those things, they always go to music. So we do something, we are lucky enough to be important in other people's lives.
That's an essential job, right? And really,
absolutely,
they need this.
Sure.
I took us off track a little bit because you were talking about.
I'm a great digressor. Don't worry.
It's called attention deficit disorder, right here. I love it, but we can always go back to this because there's a tremendous amount of gratitude that I have about the path that led us here, and truthfully, I always think about the chapters in the book that get us to where you are today. I'm so grateful to have had this experience with you the last couple of years. It just floored me that we hadn't played music before, because as soon as I met you, I felt the sincerity, the true honesty that you had in your heart. This guy is so real. It was amazing, and then your voice.
Sorry.
Oh, I should have introduced you this way because, okay, this is not just to blow you up, but no. When people go out to see bands that had their hits 30 years ago, 35 years ago even, it's rare to see someone that's been able to maintain the tonality, the range that they may have had back in the day. And that's just a part of physical, adaptation. I mean, your body changes. And so a lot of times bands are dropping the keys and you're not hitting the notes that you were able to before. But I kept thinking when I saw you coming up on the bill, and I think, wow, I wonder if he can still hit those notes.
I haven't changed the key.
It's amazing.
Simeon Angel has always been too high and too hard. When we first wrote it, I begged the keyboard player, Richard, I said, please take it down. He went, no.
Wow. Well,
So, and
maybe
yeah,
he's right.
but I do have to work on it. You know, I have to exercise. That's the key. Breathing exercises and scales and things. So it's not just given like that. I wish it was. You know,
Sure.
I mean, because there's some great singers on it too. I mean, I remember listening to Martha Davis at Soundcheck one day, and you know, apart from being just a beautiful lady,
Yeah.
I could hear her putting her voice where she wanted it to go. And I'm
Mhm.
thinking, wow, I wish I could do that the way she does that. And she was just doing things, and she was tuning her voice at soundcheck. I thought, wow, how amazing! What a
Yeah.
singer she is. But
She's
also,
another one too.
can I just mention, because you know, there'll be people watching me that don't know who you are. Can I
Oh,
just tell everybody, this is my friend Kevin Rankin. He's the drummer for Flock of
oh, yeah.
Seagulls. And previously, you were the drummer for Animotion as well,
That's right.
a long time ago. And I think that's where I met you. So this is why we're talking, because we were on tour last year. We've worked together many times before. And Kevin's doing this whole series. And so, ladies and gentlemen, Kevin Rankin, one of the finest drummers there is. He's from Portland, Oregon.
Wow. Thank you very much, David.
There you go. No,
That's a,
see, no one else, some people just might not have realized who you are.
well, I'm irrelevant in the greatest scheme of
No, you're
things.
not
I,
an elephant relevant.
I'm an elephant.
No, you're not an elephant.
I'm the sweaty guy. That's what I'm known for on
The
tour.
sweaty guy.
The
Well, yeah,
sweat.
you did and the hug guy.
I'm the hug guy, and
Yeah.
unfortunately, it's often the sweaty hug guy. So, yeah, and no hugs for a while, right? We have to do a little social
No,
distancing.
absolutely. I know. It's funny.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
I appreciate the introduction. Thank you, my friend.
Yeah.
Let's go back to 1980.
Okay.
You developed a partnership with Richard.
Yes. So we then we got a bass player in, Mr. Alan Johnson on the bass, and we started playing some shows, small pub things, and we had rented crowd, which were all our friends, and it was about 30 people.
Okay.
And I remember our first gig, and we surprised ourselves that we went down well, and we were kind of good, and we were sweaty and exhausted. It was really, you know, full on. And we started to build a crowd from there. And within about 12 months, we were the hottest unsigned band in Australia.
Wow.
And
Not just
we would
Melbourne,
play.
but all of Australia.
Well, and probably there's Melbourne and Sydney are the most important cities. Every
Right.
band that ever broke it back in the day had to go to Melbourne or Sydney, whether you were AC/DC or Excess or any of those bands. So we were, you know, the hottest thing in Melbourne. On a wet, rainy Tuesday night, we'd have like 1,000 people in a club, you know, in the city, without a record, without a demo tape, nothing. So,
Wow. And that was all original music.
yeah, always. We never played a cover.
Let me ask you, I'm sorry to interrupt you. Stylistically, would you say your sound was different? Did it evolve? Or what kind of music, do you feel like influences were sort of there that kind of drove you one style that may have changed?
It was definitely the mixture of the synthesizer and the guitar. I mean,
Okay.
you know, I'm a guitar player, but I love the sound of a synthesizer. And I loved that combination that was coming out in those days, you know, Ultravox and Gary Newman and all those people. So that's what was driving it. Yeah, that we had a synth, but we also had a sequencer as well. So it was like we had 3 or 4 keyboard players, so we'd have the sequencer triggers like things live, other synthesizers live. So yeah, we had a kind of a big sound, and we eventually, you know, realized we did need to get a drummer, but the problem was finding someone who could play to a click track back in those days.
Okay, so you were the hottest unsigned band from Melbourne and had not had a drummer yet?
No, but we also no. We'd got the drummer by then, but
Okay.
also so we'd be playing supports to opening for every other famous Australian band you would have heard of. We were opening for Ice House, The Church, Midnight Oil, Rose Tattoo, In Excess, and of course we were opening for those bands. Would say, "Hey, we're playing a solo show next week. Come and see us."
Oh, nice.
And they would. So that's how we built up to that 1,000 people. And we'd open for Midnight Oil, and that was pretty scary. You'd have, you know, thousands of drunk guys at the barriers screaming, "Get off, oils." And we had to play, you know.
Yeah.
But we did. And the next week you'd see 10 of those guys who were screaming at you at your gig. because they actually secretly liked it, but
Oh, that's,
didn't tell us.
you mentioned that list of bands. And like, I mean, Rose Tattoo is much heavier, right? They were certainly an AC/DC band. And
Well, that was scary. That was they had bikers as fans.
yeah.
And back in the day, I was wearing like plastic leather pants with
Oh.
these long leg warmers over the top and a little white shirt and a bow tie. And
Oh.
this, and you're playing this really rough pub opening for Rose Tattoo, and there's these bikers with beards like this looking
Right.
at you. You know, they're not. There's silence between songs. I think our agent was seriously trying to kill us.
Yeah, man. But the fact that,
Situations.
you won that crowd over, though, it says something.
Yeah. And it was fun. We were cheeky and we had nothing to lose.
Yeah.
And it was good. It was good fun. So yeah, was actually 1983, early 1983. We knew we desperately needed to write something that was a single. We had quirky little songs but none of them were really going to be like a hit single or anything. So finally, in early 1983, Richard says, "I've got this new piece of music for you." We were driving to a gig in the car, and I put it on my Walkman, and I heard, da, 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 da. And I thought, oh my God, he's done it. This is it.
You felt it right away.
Oh yeah. And I thought, oh, my turn now. I've got to do the words and melodies. And I thought, oh, what am I going to do? And I think the song, the title came into my head in the car on the way to the gig. And the next morning when I got up, it was like straight to the tape machine, and it was done in about 10 minutes. It was one of those songs
Really?
You've probably spoken to songwriters before who said, I don't know where it came from.
Yeah.
It just went,
yeah,
came straight out. So,
that's it. Wow.
Yeah.
What a gift, really. I mean, you've probably had to tell the story about the creation of that song, the formation of the song, that it represents the era. That song,
Yeah.
As soon as I mention to anyone that you're on the bill, that we're playing these shows and you're on the bill, they talk about the experience they had. And it was the theme song to their prom, or it was, the song that they dated, their first date, the first kiss, the first, consummation of the relationship or whatever. But I mean,
I'm sure you get that with the Seagull sings, that people tell you stories of those things. We are the soundtrack to people's lives, and it's always about they were at school, it was their first romance or something. And I'm sure you and I have, there's a whole era of songs you go, oh, that just takes me here or it takes me there. And that's what it's all about. It's a really nice thing, isn't it?
It's a beautiful thing. In a selfish mode, I have those same kind of moments when we're out on tour, and I can remember where I would see you do certain performances, because as you know, I'm the biggest David STERRY fan. So I was out on all these relay shows, a lot of shows, running right up front, and people would get mad because I'm standing in front of their seats, shooting live Facebook video, and a couple
and I'd see you and nearly forget my lyrics.
Yeah, Saratoga was one of those. I remember the Mountain Winery. I had to run up and.
What a venue is that? Beautiful.
Oh my God. It's like a castle.
We get to play some place. Oh.
Yeah.
And did you go up to where the upstairs bar is, where you overlook the whole valley and that?
Yeah.
I went up there late after we'd been on. I kind of snuck up in the dark and had a glass of wine overlooking that. And it was just, you can't relate these experiences to people. You've just played a lovely show in this magic place, and you go up there and there's all the lights in the valley, and
that venue, for people that haven't been there before, so it's Mountain Winery in Saratoga. Paul Masson owns the winery. The vineyards are all down below and above, but it's mountainside. It looks like a castle. It looks like an Italian
It was castle. A church, wasn't it? It was a church originally, and it was then an earthquake. It's got big cracks in it or something. That's right. As well.
Like half of it is missing because of the earthquake. But there's an owl that lives in the sconces on the second level. So if you're on stage left, there's an owl that roosts there. When we first did that show years ago, it dive bombed right above the drum riser in the middle of the set, and then flies up to its little perch. But it goes up in the trees that are right behind the seating at the top of that stairwell. Wow. And so where you're talking about in the dark up behind the bar, it's really intimate up there, right? It's kind of like you're tucked away from everything. But watching these bands, I remember over the years seeing different bands, how they impacted me in different ways. And I remember the first time I played there, I thought, this is the most beautiful experience, like an outdoor venue I've ever been to. It's not huge, right? It's only like 3,000 or 4,000, I think. But every year I get those goosebumps thinking about going back there, And if you live anywhere down there, if you're ever able to see a show in Mountain Winery, it's something you'll never forget. I've had friends come down from Toronto. You know, I saw that Ed Souza is on here right now, and he's put together a lot of shows for us in the Toronto area. And he
Mm-hmm.
came down last year because we raved about how amazing the place was. And I think
Oh, it is. It's
he'd be
just
the first to
beautiful.
say
Yeah.
it's one. Are there any other special ones for you on
This one,
tour?
look, lots. I love the venues.
Yeah,
M- mostly the outdoor venues. I didn't love the casinos very much.
right,
I don't particularly like casinos, but hey, they're necessary to play for. They're great gigs anyway. But I think Coney Island Stadium is
yeah.
magic. Aretha Franklin amphitheater, with the
In
boats
Detroit.
behind you, and that was just beautiful. That
That's
was
where our
the
picture was together.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and that was where you know we'd relax. It was about our third gig or something, I think, and we're starting to kind of people were relaxing. I know that some people who hadn't done it before kind of nervous. Um, the vapors, were pretty quiet at first. They were,
Right.
and
At
and
first.
I said, you guys are, really quiet. Everything okay? Thinking that they don't like everybody else, but they said, oh no, we're just nervous about
Right.
all you rock stars. So
Oh,
they were cool, and that was the first time my good mates from the Escape Club, and I saw you talking to Trevor and
yeah.
Johnny the
Yeah.
other day. Came in as well, and there was this massage lady there. Did you see her? Or
Oh
two
yeah.
people doing massages?
I had
Just
the guy do mine.
I had
Yeah.
no, I had the lady do it,
She's beautiful.
and she
Wonderful.
had this huge hair,
Yeah.
and I, she could have broken my neck with her fingers,
Right.
seriously. But I had massage just before I went on, and thought, oh, I could do this every night.
Oh,
And
don't you wish?
out by the ocean? It was beautiful.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah. Looking across to Canada on the other
yeah,
side. Yeah.
yeah.
That's special, man. And the
That was
moon.
great. And I love my favorite city in America, I think, because it's just so romantic, is San Antonio with the Riverwalk.
Oh,
And we
yeah.
were staying right next to the Alamo. And
Right.
I was down the Riverwalk about 3 times. I got in there early, so before sound check, with Nick Richards and everybody went down to the Alamo and then along the Riverwalk for some food. And then after the show, I came back and went down there again. And that amphitheater there is absolutely beautiful as well.
Really. Yeah. That I never made the Riverwalk, and I wish I had. I've never been to the
Oh,
Alamo because we drove in
oh.
right in time for the gig, and so
Well, it's all next door to each other,
yeah.
Got to have words to your boss, I mean.
Well, sometimes I jump off and I hang out with you guys, So next time
Yeah.
we'll do that. I'll just jump
San
ahead.
Antonio is just it's so romantic. It's like the Riverwalk you're like in Spain or somewhere, It's just beautiful. It's just all restaurants and bars and quiet and water running through. Absolutely beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. But another venue, and this is probably one of my favorite moments. This is not even without talking about the Greek theatre, which you walk on there and you go, oh, that's the
Right.
Greek theatre.
Yeah.
But a personal funny favorite night was up in your part of the neck of the woods, Jacksonville.
Right.
There was the Brit Theatre, the Brit Stadium, Brit Theatre, or what it was?
Brit Pavilion.
Brit Pavilion, yes.
That's right.
And it was a beautiful afternoon. I've got some people up there crafting an instrument for me that takes 12 months to build. And they were from Jacksonville. So I had them on the guest list and they came along. When it was my time to go on, I was standing quite near the front of the stage. And it was kind of like duskish and it started raining. Well, just gentle, beautiful, gentle rain. Right. And the only person that was getting hit was at the front of the stage, which was me. And I'm thinking, this is so beautiful, beautiful soft rain and sunshine, and I'm getting absolutely soaked. And I kind of looked over and I'm thinking, electric guitar,
right,
microphone. And I thought, well, the microphone's not actually, it's a wireless, so that should be okay. But my guitar is plugged in. I'm using a wireless. I'm thinking, I wonder if I can get electrocuted here. I'm not going anywhere though. And I think I could see out of the corner of my eye Todd, the tour guy, like going, stop or something. And I'm going, no, I'm staying here.
Good man.
Beautiful moment.
Because if you're going to go, what better way to go?
Where would you go? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, really, that if you're going to pass away, this is the way to do it. Right. So, and or imagine, if you're doing it for the fans, right? Just they're going to be saying, I was at the gig that David Sterry electrocuted himself. And, but
how lovely. No, it was just a beautiful moment for me, and it's something I'll never forget. And people say, what was your favorite bit? And I tell them that, and they go, that is so strange that, you were standing there in the rain thinking you might be electrocuted and happy as anything.
If they're musicians, they understand, that's the thing that really, there's something magical about that, really, when the elements are there, the night's right. Not only there was a gentle rain, the sunset that night was
Mm.
stunning. It was the
It
most
was
incredible
beautiful, wasn't it?
sunset,
It was a beautiful
and
venue, yeah.
the people were remarkable. I know the Dead members from the Grateful Dead were there the next night. I think, you know, they have such
Ah.
a varied series of bands that come through. I'd
Yeah.
never been there to Jacksonville. It's still several
It's
hours
beautiful.
away from
And
Portland.
the town is beautiful as well, isn't
Cute.
it? We're driving through that town. It's just amazing.
It is
Did
cute.
you? And that's a funny memory too when you're talking about, you know, the glamour of the music. Wha- Did you fly out of there or did you drive out of there? You drove out of there.
We
There's a little airport there. I can't remember what it was
Medford.
called.
Yeah,
Medford.
we
Yes.
drove from Seattle to Medford. We did that show, and then we flew to Santa Barbara.
I think we're all in the airport at like 4 a.m. and
That's
talking
right.
about the glamour. You should see what Wang Chung, Flock of Seagulls in real life looked like at 4 a.m.
That's right.
At an
Nothing was
airport.
open at the airport. We were all
No,
just like,
they
it was
couldn't
scrambling.
get a drink. Yeah, couldn't get a eat. We just all looking at each other going,
That's
God,
right.
here we
We waited because we still had a few hours before the flight was going to take off, and so
Yeah.
we like pushed in front of each other in line to try and get the first open Starbucks there. Yeah, there's something to be said about, you know, the gig, the stage, the off stage antics that go on. But
Mm.
I did it again. I took us away from the history, right? So you want to go back to
What history? Where were we?
all right,
What are
so
you talking about?
you hear,
Who are you?
All right, so Richard gave you the vibe. He gave you
Yep.
the next day. You jumped up, you put it on a tape machine,
Yep.
but you didn't have a record deal yet.
No. And in fact, that was the interesting thing. We pretty had a record deal the week after that came out. Our manager, we had a manager. Well, we had our manager that I mentioned before. He managed the Little River Band.
That's right.
His name was Glenn Wheatley, or is Glenn Wheatley, and he decided he wanted to form a record company around us or that song, not just for us but for other bands as well, so he could have more control over how things were done. It's called a conflict of interest, actually, but
Right.
We sort of did it. So he formed this company. It was written one week, demoed the next week, recorded properly the week after, and released sort of soon after that.
That doesn't happen very often.
No, it doesn't. But I'm going to digress slightly again, because it's just as we just finished recording it, and gee, it must have been about 35 years ago, because it was we were in rehearsal and it was on my birthday, and we're waiting for the song was going to be released the week after, and we also overnight lost a great producer called Rupert Hine.
Mm.
And I always wanted Rupert Hine, who produced The Fix, and a whole lot of other people, Howard Jones.
Yeah.
He was in the rehearsal studio that he's an Englishman, and I just wanted to go and play in Semi Angel to see what he thought of it. And we lost Rupert Hine overnight, so that's another sad music.
That was
industry.
last night?
Yeah, I just woke up to that this morning. So
wow. Well,
great producer.
A tip of the hat to Rupert. There we go.
Yes. So then the single comes out, and the vibe was in all the music industry people, managers and business people and record companies. Oh yeah, that's not bad. It should go about the top 20 or something, So I think, because we have states in Australia, we have the state of New South Wales and Victoria and Western Australia, etc. So we did pretty well in most states, but never nationally did it get like in the top 5. I don't think it got to number 2 in Melbourne. We were held off by Michael Jackson, I think.
Damn.
But somehow before we had the album finished, we didn't record the album till later in the year. Somewhere along the way, a guy called Rick Carroll, who was the programmer for K-Rock back in the days when K-Rock was everyone's favorite station that broke all those bands. Rick Carroll was in Australia programming a Sydney radio station to be more like K-Rock and sort of giving them the formula. And his favorite song while he was here was Send Me an Angel. And so he took it back to America without a record, us having a record deal, and put it on K-Rock.
Wow,
so
really?
All of a sudden, people started jumping. Yeah, he did. People started jumping through hoops thanks to K-Rock and, Richard Blade and all those people.
That's amazing.
But he took it there. So there was a certain accident involved. We talk about music about, sometimes some of the greatest music doesn't get heard, wrong place, wrong time.
Right.
Wrong era or something. But that was all just right for us. So Rick Carroll is no longer with us. So
Well, we can still tip our, a hat as well. To,
Hats, yes.
Somebody who is here that just made a little comment here and sent a picture to you on the Facebook feed.
I can't see those actually.
Our dear friend Claudia is sending
Claudia.
hugs. Don't you just
Hey.
absolutely love her?
She's a lovely lady, isn't she? We got lucky we got to play Germany in February before all this lockdown stuff happened, and Claudia came down loaded with presents and things. I wanted to put her on the door list. I think I'd first seen her on Facebook while I was in America last year, and worked out she was a friend of yours.
Yeah.
So here's me going, look, Claudia, don't buy tickets, which she already had. I said, I'll put you on the door list because you're a friend of Kevin, so you're a friend of mine.
Nice.
And had people watching out for her. And she's a load of fun. So she came in and, we had a little chat. And I'm sorry for talking so fast, Claudia. It's because I have anxiety because I had to keep slowing down my English for her. She's just learning it, and she understands. But I go blah, 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 blah. So
she asked me to slow down my interviews because I'm a fast talker as well, and she's been watching every single one, and then she runs it through a translator if there's anything that she gets hung up on. But what she did for me, we were on tour just prior to the tour that we did together. In July, we were in London. We played 2 shows in Camden. She flew over from Germany and brought purple hair color. She did my hair on the afternoon of my show. She had everything set up. I can't even imagine how she brought all this stuff through customs because she had razors and all sorts of utensils and then tons of hair product to do my hair on the road.
Wow.
And I feel like she's very special.
Amazing. And she also, there was something I was very jealous of on the tour last year, was all those neck bands and things that you had. Because I've got a set of glasses. She bought me a set of LED glasses. So thank you, Claudia. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Claudia. Yeah. Yes. Okay. So K-Rock broke you.
Yes.
I'm thinking about how, typically what'll happen, especially in that era, was that a band would have a record label put out the record. They'd find the single that they think is going to be the big hit. They'll put some money behind that. Then they'll set you up with a tour and they'll push you out on tour to try and represent that single. So had you started doing any touring at that point when K-Rock?
Not in America. We'd never been to America before that. And another mentioning one of my favorite bands of all time was In Excess, of course. And In Excess toured America repeatedly before they had a hit single. They were just over there working their asses off all the time until they finally had their big breakthrough. But no, we just had the single. We'd been touring Australia, of course, which is like as big as America, but not as many cities in the middle. Right. So we were playing all the capitals: Perth, Adelaide, Melbourne, Sydney, Brisbane.
That's a lot of driving. Like you said, there's not.
Yeah, it was. Especially, we used to drive most of the way up the east coast, not to Perth, Western Australia. That's just like too far. It's like 3 days across a desert. We drove lots and lots and lots in the van.
Bill Wadhams just sent a text saying, "Hey, David."
Hey, Bill.
Nice.
Hey, Bill. Yeah, he's a lovely guy. I remember looking over side of stage at the winery. Yeah. And seeing Bill and Martha over there. That was the nice thing about playing sometimes is you're kind of, I love being side of stage, being allowed to look at a band from side of stage. Yeah. And, you look over and there's all these people in there, they've got their thumbs up and they're singing along to your song.
Unless you're watching us, they're not putting their thumbs up. No, I'm just kidding.
And Trevor Steele used to come out and sing along with Semi and Angel because it was his perfect warm-up song for his register of his voice. Yeah. Going, you can sing it that easily? Wow, we should come on and do it, mate.
Yeah.
But Animotion, what a great band. And because you were in Animotion, that's where I met you. I can't remember. I'm trying to pin it down. It would have been a House of Blues or something, or the Mandalay Bay when you were playing with Animotion. I can't remember the actual venue, but I do remember we had a conversation somewhere.
Yeah, but really never got to know each other. I remember just being so grateful to get some opportunities to watch you do your thing, to see you playing guitar. I just didn't expect it. Right. I mean, I knew the songs, I knew the voice, but really, so were you studied, classically trained, not classically trained, but
sort of, but I was not really good at it. Once again, anxiety gets in my way of everything. I wish I was a great blues guitar player or something, but I just can't. My mind, you're playing, and I go, oh God, what am I going to do next?
But you're rock. I mean, your playing is very rock driven. You know, really.
Well, thank you. Yeah. Well, my favorite guitar players. I mean, I saw Led Zeppelin play. And I saw Deep Purple and Black Sabbath.
Wow.
And early Pink Floyd. So I kind of grew up on that.
Okay.
But I'm not the virtuoso enough to be able to play like that. And
you say that.
But yeah, look, I do what I do.
Yeah.
And it's half the trick is in the way you stand while you're doing it. It's the pose you do.
The stance.
And how low you wear your guitar. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
How far apart your feet are.
Yeah, exactly. And I've got that feedback trick, where I can go and make it scream.
Right.
And people think I'm doing something really hard. I'm not. I'm just turning the volume up and hitting the whammy bar.
Don't give away your tricks, man.
Yeah. But it is, that was another great thing too. Some of the amazing players on the tour last year. What a collection of drummers. Yourself, Michael from the Vapors.
Love him.
Josh,
Josh Thompson.
Not give up drumming, but start singing as well because he's got such a beautiful voice.
Beautiful voice, yeah.
And
Prairie Prince, when we had the tubes out there.
Prairie Prince.
Oh my God. Yeah.
I didn't get the courage to really approach him and speak to him until the Greek theatre show.
Yeah.
Because I wanted to hear some Todd Rundgren stories that he would know a lot about.
Yeah.
And of course, tube stories.
Right.
And that was just in awe of seeing them. Also, look at what how spoiled was I?
Yeah, you had a smoking band behind you, buddy.
Smoking Joe Mendes.
Yeah, Joe Mendes is a wicked drummer. Oh man,
isn't he?
Yeah.
And I love the way you kind of all looked after each other too. I remember, I don't know Michael was in trouble with Vapors one night and someone was helping him out. All the drummers there was always a drummer on watch for another drummer.
Not intentionally, just because we all cared about each other. And that sometimes they'd have them throwing sticks at me, But man, we're really blessed in a lot of ways to have that community, But what was it like when you were in the Melbourne scene? You were doing all these gigs around. I've talked to quite a few, artists that say that they really built a relationship with other bands, in the region. Or was it competitive where you were? Because you said it took a year to really.
Yeah, it was competitive, but there was also goodwill.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember, for example, In Excess, when Angel first came out, and we'd open for them a few times without playing. We never played it live until it was out.
Really?
It was just a matter of weeks.
Okay.
We hadn't played it. Everyone knew we were recording this thing, but no one knew what it was. And I remember playing a big show with In Excess, and they quietly, one by one, came up and say, "Hey, we love your song."
Yeah.
And I remember I've got a telegram in my attic somewhere that I found the other day that was from Men at Work.
Cool.
When we'd hit the American charts and we were going on tour, and Men at Work wishing us all the very best.
That's so cool.
But also one of the things now when you go on tour, we're talking about all the goodwill backstage.
Yeah.
I have a little bit of a saying to how we've all, calmed down. We're not rivals in the charts. We haven't got managers or record companies pitting us against each other anymore.
Right.
And I like to say this: we've all survived our own careers.
Right.
So we've had the highs, we've had the lows.
Yeah.
And I think it's how you deal with what happens after the success is what defines you as a person and as a musician sometimes. It's my little theory.
No, I think it's a wonderful theory. You're absolutely right. I guess the unique thing about Real Life and about your musical career is that you had the success and then you had the success again. And I'm wondering if that adversity and then rebirth kind of helped you sort of form this connection with people, because you're so unassuming, you're very humble, obviously, but I think I see a sense of gratitude and real appreciation for having the ability to go out and do this. And
I pinch myself. I didn't do very well in school. I had no job that I really wanted to do other than be a musician.
Yeah.
And you're walking out on some of those stages, and I never forget where I came from. I really don't. Especially when the Greek theatre. You walk out there, and I remember I went up there with Nick Richards. So Nick Richards from Boys Don't Cry. He's just the most fun I've ever had.
He is a blast.
Great story. You've got to get him on.
I do, for sure.
Stories.
Yeah,
you really got to get Nick on.
Yeah.
And we were just standing there, and I've got these great photos of me and Nick. It's just like this at the Greek theatre going,
yeah.
Whoa.
God,
and everywhere we went, we were just a day or so behind Ringo.
That's right.
So you knew that where you were standing, Ringo's star stood the night before you.
That's what they told me. Then they said, the guys that came up out of the dressing room said, "Hey, where you're sitting," pointing to me. That's where Ringo was last night. And I was like, oh wow. And so I actually mentioned this in the Escape Club show, that I snuck up on the ceiling of the roof for that show, and I watched Dramarama from the roof. I climbed through the skylight through our dressing room, and I probably shouldn't say this. Actually, if Mike Score is watching this, don't tell him. But I hung, and it was just beautiful moonlight. You could see the Griffith Observatory from over the hill. And then and I was just sitting there watching the stars, watching that crowd, and seeing Dramarama directly underneath me on the ceiling. That was a goosebump moment for sure. But
it was just a magic night, wasn't it?
Yeah, it really was.
I think the audience felt that we were all like feeling like magic as well. So it just spreads from the stage to the audience and back again. It was just beautiful.
When you find YouTube clips from that show, somewhere, I think I had that on GoPro. I should see if I could find it. But I watch a lot of YouTube clips that everybody shot from the crowd of all the bands that night. Mm-hmm. And each one of them had a really special night. Missing Persons was on fire that night. And Tubes were incredible. And Clem Burke was sitting off the side of the stage watching them.
Yeah, that's right.
I thought, wow, this is a special thing. But, I mean, we could keep going back to that. But I'm especially curious about that break. You mentioned that In Excess was supportive of you. There was a community built.
Most of the Aussie bands were, even though we were rivals, you wanted to be ahead of the charts and each other and stuff. But yeah, there was support there for sure.
I was wondering if Michael Hutchins may have come up to you and said, "Hey, I really wish I would have written that song." Did he ever
Look, he wrote many, many better songs than that. But
he wrote great songs.
Absolutely. I kind of, I tended to hang out more with the guitar player, Tim Farriss.
Okay. Yeah.
Because being a guitar player, and I was a little bit, not intimidated by Michael. Michael's a beautiful man and a shy man in many ways as well. Mm-hmm. But I felt more comfortable talking guitars to Tim, not rock star moves with Michael.
Sure.
But, they were all a lovely bunch of guys. Still are all rest of them are a lovely bunch of guys.
Yeah. When you came over to America, so what brought you? I mean, so K-Rock blew you up. Yeah. How did the shows come about for you? Were you doing some touring of the U.S. at some point?
No. We were just so surprised. I remember, when Angel first entered the American charts, we were touring New Zealand at the time, and our tour manager came along and said, "Guess what, guys? You're number 198 on the Billboard Hot 200." And I went, "Oh yeah, great.
Yeah,
that's as far as it's going to go." But driven by the stations like K-Rock, got into the top 20 and higher in once again different states and territories versus national. And so there was a great interest in having us tour over there, and so we managed to get onto the Eurythmics tour. So that was we were opening for Eurythmics. We did 32 shows with Eurythmics, and then solo in Canada, and then back down with Berlin on the same tour. Then by that stage it had gone to number 1 in Germany. So this 2-month tour that we were going to be on ended up at about 6 months. We ended up going to Germany and to Japan and to everywhere. But the first tour of America was the first, and we had a bus. We had a really rotten old bus.
Yeah,
we had it was called the Enterprise.
You called the bus the Enterprise?
No, it was. It had its name was the Enterprise.
Okay,
and it was a bit past its retirement date, really. But we had this fabulous bus driver called Robin, who was like our captain.
Yeah,
and he'd advise us, being foreigners, about what we could do and what we shouldn't do, and you have to have chicken wings in Buffalo, and you have to go out and look at Niagara Falls, and we'd buy fireworks in some places, and we'd get to a border of another state, and he'd say, "You got to get out here. I'm going to drop you off here. You got to set up all that fireworks, because if the cops get us, we're in trouble." So I've got all these old photos of us sitting in paddocks somewhere. Don't know where we are, lighting skyrockets and crackers.
Nope.
Yeah.
And, man, that's like the best bus driver you could hope for.
Oh, he was fabulous, and he was like our guide. We looked to him for leadership. And they used to give us those horrible cans of Foster's on our drink ride. No one drinks Foster's in Australia.
You didn't put that on your list?
No. They just thought, oh, Australians. I think I
Right.
saw it once on the last trip. I thought, oh God, no one drinks this stuff. This is the stuff that we give away. And they put every night. We'd have these big fridges of beer, and our bass player could not waste beer.
Right.
So every cupboard on our bus, the Enterprise, you'd open it and cans of beer would fall on your head.
Oh,
you
no.
just couldn't let it go, So yeah, and just driving around America, the amazing countryside.
Yeah.
That time, and it's always just such an amazing thing when you're from somewhere so far away and you walk onto a stage and there's people singing your songs at you. It's like, wow, my music. Wow.
That's, still to this day, there are so many people that are commenting right now on Facebook talking about how much your music means to them. And
thank you.
Yeah, Daryl Orna he's a really good friend of mine that brought his son down in Jacksonville, right at the Brit. He and my friend Julie Jockums, they're both right here. They did the long drive to see you.
Hello.
It's nice to see them. And my dear friend Janine.
I can't see any of that. So
this is a secret for you, but this is really cool, and we're going to get to this in a second. But Steve Healy talks about how Happy and Oblivion were amazing, but he wants to know if there are physical copies available for the new album.
Can we do a reveal here?
Do you want to do this? Do you want to do the world premiere?
Yeah. Okay. So the Sirens album, that's a little card there. If anyone wants a free download copy, all they have to do is email me and I'll scan one of these and they can download a free copy. It's on Spotify and it's on Apple Music and all that already. But I've finally ready to get there's going to be a limited amount of vinyl and CDs pressed. And I've been busy in the last couple of months learning Photoshop and putting the cover together myself.
Okay.
So the vinyl, and here it is. This is a proof print of the cover. It's a gatefold.
Okay.
So can you see that? Yeah.
Wow, look at
the
this.
Real life album, Sirens. I'm always using a speaker as a siren.
Of course.
The back cover.
Oh, look at that.
Of the band.
A real drummer. And you don't even have a drum machine.
No. The funny thing is, Kevin, that's none of those people are real. It's just because it's basically me as real life.
Yeah.
So I've always wanted to have an imaginary band. So it's my imaginary band.
Oh, no.
And I've got, so that's there's a guy called Skidmore Brown.
Okay.
On the bass. Skidmore Brown. And we have a lady on the drums.
Okay. Who's she?
That's Alma.
Okay.
Alma Thud.
Oh, beautiful. Of course. Okay.
And we have Bert Tinkler on the keys.
Tinkling the keys, tinkling the ivories.
Yeah. So there's lots of silliness in this cover. So the album's called Sirens, and it's based on the mythology of the sirens, the Greek, Egyptian, Italian stuff, which I'm fascinated by, mythology and things. So it's based. One whole side is a track called Sirens about this guy who wanted to hear the sirens sing. So of course it ends up in disaster. So We've got the gatefold. And it's got all the lyrics.
That.
There's a picture. That picture is actually the Sirens Island, and that one is off the coast of Italy.
It is okay.
Really is. Yeah. So there's part fact, a lot of fiction in there.
Downtown Julie Brown, are you watching? If you are, do you know where this island is? This is right off.
She probably does. Yeah, this is off the coast of Positano.
Okay.
It's near the Isle of Capri. I've actually seen that. It's beautiful. Beautiful part of the world.
It's a gorgeous looking record here, but it really
thank you. So that goes off to be pressed for vinyl later this afternoon, and some CDs made. So the vinyl is about a 10-week turnaround. So
okay.
Also, by the way, Sirens were not mermaids. Sirens had bodies of birds and faces of women, and I think mermaids were nice things or something, but sirens, nah.
Yeah, my friend Julie that was down in Jacksonville, she's a mermaid, so she'll have to have a little rival with the sirens.
But it's different. Yeah, there's a whole lot of mythology about sirens. It kind of starts in Greece, but there's Italian versions and Turkish versions. But somewhere along the line, the mythology turned to mermaids, and it's different. So this is about the original Sirens, the bird ones.
It
And of
sounds,
course, I had to make the Sirens sing as well. So that was my big problem, is going, okay, smartass, you've written a song
yeah.
about this guy trying to hear the Sirens. So there's a kind of an operatic bit in there. I'm calling it new wave progtronic.
Well, okay, so we should talk
With my
about
tongue
this.
my tongue is very firmly in my cheek.
In cheek. Yeah.
Yes.
New wave
New wave
progtronic.
progtronic. Yeah.
I love it.
Well, I grew up on a lot of prog music, like Yes
Mhm.
and themed Journey to the
Genesis.
Center of the Earth and all those things. Genesis, yeah. So I thought, and prog is usually made by really incredible virtuoso musicians, which I am not.
You're just so humble.
So I thought I'd have a new wave crack at it, and so it's also very electronic. I've got my synthesizers. This machine is on here.
I
think your boss would love this.
Yeah.
This. Oops, what did I do? Ooh.
Wow. Wow.
It's sort of like a wet fart generator.
I knew that this is your passion. This is electronic sounds, a lot of sort of, it's derived from knobs, handles.
Yep.
So
Analog.
you take sort of the analog stuff. Yeah, it's in like a
Yep.
theremin, like derivative. Yep. You've got, obviously what is that? The item that you just have?
That's called a soft pop, and it's a little analog synthesizer. That is on the record.
Okay.
And lately I've been getting into, and I know whenever I talk to Mike Score, it's about stuff like this.
Right.
Has he got it? Have I got it?
Right.
And downstairs I've got this whole rack, what modular system is.
Sure.
Where you plug things in, and I'm learning that, and it's really beautiful and mesmerizing stuff. It's like pure analog synth wave forms that you shape, and when you turn it off, you can never make the same sound again. So it's very frustrating. But it's beautiful. I'm just loving it at the moment.
And so Sirens is comprised of a lot of that as a bed.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. It's all very electronic. There's some bad guitar playing.
But it sounds like
some feedback on me. Yeah.
There's like a concept behind this.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, so you mentioned the whole first side is
Sirens. Yeah.
Okay.
And so it goes through. There's 5 mini tracks on there. There's basically 5 tracks. In part of Sirens, there's thunderstorms, lots of rain, dogs barking, backwards messages, all this stuff that I loved on, Dark Side of the Moon. And
right.
Stuff. There's all this effects and things that I love. Plus, it tells a kind of a little story in the end. But on the other side, there's 5 tracks that I wrote specifically that I wanted to just kick ass live, and we played a couple of them in Germany. And you get halfway through a set, and Claudia would have heard these two. And you go, okay, folks, we're going to play a new song now. And you see a bit of their faces drop a little bit.
Right. It's time to go get a beer.
Yeah. And the song, we're playing 2 songs. One's called My Beautiful Monster. And it starts off like it's going to be a ballad. And then all of a sudden, bang, it goes straight to a chorus. And you see them. They jolt, and then they get a big smile on their face because this thing just really is great.
Yeah,
that's My Beautiful Monster. And then we finish. We dare play one more song after Angel. We play a thing called Dream On. It's just like a glam. You'd love this one. It's a glam drum track,
Okay.
And it just goes down like a storm. So yeah. So the other 5 songs are meant to be played live.
That's you mentioned the sort of the idea behind Sirens, and I just think right now people are looking for opportunities to get lost in the music. Right now this is really important. If we're quarantined and your life is conflicted, that it sounds like the perfect record. If you can get the vinyl,
it's
put your headphones on.
Yeah, where you and open the cover, and there's there's all the words there, and I've put a few little jokes in, like it's very tongue in cheek.
Yeah.
But like the old days when I remember growing up, and there'd be a new record come out, and someone would have the record, would go to the house of the person who had the best stereo, and would have a cup of tea or coffee or something, and we'd listen to the record in silence while passing around the cover, reading all the notes, because there's often little things hidden in there that you wanted to find out, and then discussing the record. And so, this is one of those things that it's an album. Hopefully it's an album listen. you know, where people go, okay, I've got it's what 39 minutes all up,
I would
so it's
love,
not too long.
let's do this when we get back on the road again. Okay.
Yep.
So you mentioned the download cards. So
Yep.
make sure that, I'll grab the email from you. I'll post that
It's
in the
on the
show notes.
Facebook. It's on the Facebook thing. But anyone, and I'll personally scan, and they
Okay.
can download it and have a listen. Yeah. Or
Okay.
it's on Spotify. It's on all those things. I don't listen to that digital stuff myself.
But that's what I was going to say. They're just going to get their appetite wet with this.
Hopefully, yeah.
Then I want them to order the album, put on the headphones, and then when you and I are together and we're doing shows again, I'd love to sit down with you, listen to the record together. I'd love to experience that.
You know, we'll do that. But you know what
Yeah.
would also be great? And as I mentioned before, all us bands that were on those tours, we're all still making new music. Wouldn't it be good to do a show where we still play our hits? Of course,
Yeah.
you'd never not play your hits. But you know, a couple of new songs as well, rather than just having to totally stick in the 80s. Because
Sure.
seriously, the Dramarama record and the Vapors record, you know, and Missing Persons,
Yeah.
it's all good stuff.
Big time. Yeah.
It's all good stuff.
You mentioned that we're appreciative for having been where we were, that we still have an opportunity to create. Mike has been writing like crazy. He's using this time right now to write so much. And he stayed behind at the end of the tour to do more stuff in LA and record. And then he came back. He's in the UK right now.
Yeah.
But he's written so much stuff, and we've gotten to hear bits and parts of it. And I don't know if he's going to debut some of that when he does the show on the 13th, June 13th. But I love that people are using this time to sort of find a new voice. And, so.
And you've got to play it though. As a writer, you don't go through all this process to not play it.
Right.
You know,
it finds a new voice there.
Yes.
It does. I mean, it finds a new voice when you play it in front of people, and it grows. And so I think about these songs that you might write, and you find some magic in just the process of coming up with the final product. But once you play those for people and it evolves a little bit, with the band and with the interaction of the crowd, that is magic. You'll hear a re-recording of a hit song because of that evolution. So that kind of takes me to round 2, chapter 2 of Real Life, right? So Simian Angel had a second release, right?
Yeah.
So how did that happen, and why did that happen?
Because it was about 1987 or 88, and I was living in Los Angeles at the time to be close to my record company, because they wouldn't talk to me on the phone, and there wasn't a fax machine, and there wasn't mobile phones or anything. I needed to sort of be onto them about, come on, let's do something.
Just knock on the door.
Knock on the door, yeah. So at that time, Michael Jackson's producer, the record label guy, it slipped my mind for a minute. See, they're having one of those things.
Jennifer Batten may be watching. Maybe she'll chime in here and say,
it's on my tongue. I'm so sorry.
Okay.
But he remixed, and it was a very strange person to do it, because he did all the Michael Jackson stuff. Remixed Blue Monday by New Order.
Oh,
which is
right.
probably one of my all-time favorite things.
Sure.
And I heard it, and I thought, wow, I'd really like to hear an updated version of Send Me an Angel treated like that by somebody else. And the record company kind of said, yeah, okay, and sent it to an English guy called Nigel Wright, who was in a band called Shack Attack for a long time. And he did a remix and sent it back to Curb Records. And someone heard it on a radio station and went, oh, okay. So without any great planning of that to happen, it just started taking off again. So
the same kind of thing. No support from the label.
No, there was support from the label the second time around. Okay. And even the first time when they finally, because it was being played without a record deal the first time. So the second time around, they had a deal in place. We had a deal in place.
Okay.
And it just sort of took off again.
Amazing video.
And we were sort of in the middle of making our third album called Lifetime, and there was a hit song there called God Tonight.
Right.
It's
a great song.
Thank you very much. It's one of my favorites.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, we had to down tools in this album and go to America and do a little mini tour and do all the press and stuff to support Angel again. So by the same token, I was a little bit disappointed, going, I love this song, but not again. We've got this brand new stuff coming out.
Right.
It's a great song called God Tonight, and it would sort of put the release of God Tonight back by about 12 months or something.
Oh, wow.
And so,
But
do you want to have can I tell you a Spinal Tap moment about God
yeah,
Tonight?
I definitely want to hear that.
Okay, so this is an Arnie Fuffkin kick my ass moment.
Okay.
So
Paul Schaefer.
back in the day, like 1983, 1984, we'd go to America and we'd do the in-store appearances.
Right.
And there'd be a queue around the corner from Tower Records. Hello, Suzanne, if you're watching.
Oh, yeah. She just said something about Sirens is the record you can get lost in. It's brilliant. Hi, Suzanne.
Well, Suzanne, when I was over there last year on the tour, out of the blue on Facebook came this lovely picture of me autographing a Heartland album, our first album, for this beautiful young lady who's Suzanne.
Okay.
And I, the day before, it was the night before the Greek theatre show, I think, and I'd driven in past the old Tower Records building, which is it's still there, but it's no records anymore.
Right. Gone.
And I was kind of reminiscing, and for all of a sudden, this lovely lady sends me this picture of her. She was 14, and I'm signing her album. And I thought, oh, how beautiful is that? I got to meet her. We're good mates now. So the second time round in 1990, when we were over there with the second Angel version for the promotion, they'd set up some in-store appearances.
Okay.
And they weren't like they used to be. There was no one there. And so it was like, that scene with Spinal Tap, it's like, I'm Arnie Fuffkin, kick my ass.
So depressing.
We did about two of those, and there was no one there. And we were doing some small gigs as well. And we were going up to Seattle, was the last show.
This is 91?
91, I think. 90, probably 89 or 90. I can't remember.
As the grunge scene is taking off, though, and music takes. That's why.
I know. And so we went up to do this show in Seattle, and I thought, oh no, there's going to be no one at the show. But it was packed, and they screamed so loud. Have you ever been on the stage when the audience screams that nearly deafens you? They're louder than you are.
I'm telling you, Dave, last year, and I don't want to interrupt that story, we played Quebec City on the 5th of July with Corey Hart and Level 42. Corey Hart hadn't played in 30 years, and he's from Montreal, so he has this huge Canadian following. There were 90,000 people at that show. Biggest show I've ever done. During our set, there were probably 50 playing, 50 but they sang I Ran so loud. I had in-ear monitors, but their singing was so loud during the chorus that I couldn't hear the band. It was incredible. I could just feel my drums, and I get goosebumps thinking about it. But that was one of those times that thought, I never want to forget this feeling. That was amazing. So, all right, there's my, all right.
Okay. So the show was great. They screamed so loud, but we had, before that show was the last in-store appearance of the trip. And we just went, we said our tour manager, no, not again. No,
Arnie.
No one there, blah, blah, blah. We don't want to go there. And he, come on, guys, we've got to, we're sort of contracted to do it. And he drove past this store, a record store. And there's this huge queue around the block. And so we thought, well, gee, maybe Depeche Mode there or something as well. Maybe it's not just us in there,
Yeah.
So we kind of got out of the car and we got into the back of the line and sort of said, who are you waiting for? And they turned around and went, you.
Oh, man. See, only you're the humble one that would do that,
Well, but all the other, there have been 3 other stores that Arnie Fuffkin kicked my ass. And we get to the last one we didn't want to do, and there's a queue around the block in Seattle.
That just shows you how amazing.
Territory.
That's the Pacific Northwest for you, man. We're a bunch of really good people here. So go Seattle, you rock.
I do love it up there. Portland and Seattle. And there's that great place. There was a theater we played with Eurythmics in Eugene, Oregon.
Oh, yeah.
Is there a theater? You know that one?
Yeah, the Wow Hall.
That's the one. Yeah.
Yep.
Yes.
I saw Chris Cornell there just before he passed away. Yeah. Actually, no, he was at McDonald Theater, but I played the Wow Hall, and it's an amazing venue. Yeah. Anyway, sorry.
Have you played the Hollywood Bowl?
I never have. It's on my bucket list.
After you've done the Greek theater, you've got to have the bowl on your bucket list, haven't you?
I want the bowl. I want Red Rocks in Denver, outside of Denver.
Oh, Red Rocks.
And, of course, the Garden, got to play Madison Square Gardens. But Red Rocks is the top of my bucket list anywhere in the world. That's where I want to play, but it'll happen.
Yeah, yeah. One of these days.
Yeah. Man, the Seattle was like the culmination of the really good return then to this radio promo. So
Yeah,
Angel took off, blew up
yeah,
again, and so
yeah,
like early '90s. What
yeah.
happened from then till fast forward to late 2000 teens? What was David doing
Well,
in the meantime?
well, basically, we'd had an awful situation with our Australian record company that were liquidated, and he was also our manager and our publisher. So it was a nightmare. That
That never
took me like
happens.
11 years and 6 lawyers to
Oh,
kind of, because the company was liquidated, so our music was liquidated, and
so
trying to
you
talk to a liquidator person, a legal person about copyright and things, they just don't know about it. All they want is money. So that took a long, long time. And I was determined, I was a bit fed up with record companies um, um, in that there was never really a relationship with us, with anyone as a record company, where you imagine guidance, you imagine a great A&R person you could sit down with and be advised. I've always wished I had a mentor,
yeah,
in the music to sort of say, hey, what you're feeling is natural and blah, blah, blah. But so we decided to go independent, and we made an album called Happy. That just is sort of, sometimes people think of Real Life as just a pop band, but when they saw us live, they've got to remember that we were opening for Rose Tattoo and Midnight Oil, and we were
right.
a lot heavier than people thought. We were a lot more full on and aggressive, and there was, more to the music than just the pop songs. And so we made this album called Happy that we recorded ourselves, and we had a new keyboard player. We're on our third keyboard player at the time, and we loved it. And we had a funny little record company that we found in Texas, in Houston.
Okay.
A couple of funny guys called, was it Metropolis or no, Momentum Records? That's right.
Okay.
Lovely couple of guys. And it didn't have any kind of real poppy single on it, and so people weren't that used to Real Life being so aggressive.
Right.
And some of the reviews said this is a great record, but what's making them so angry? And what
Yeah.
was making us angry was the liquidation process of our
Right.
record company and management things. So
6 lawyers will make you angry, I'm sure. Yeah.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
We just sort of remained independent after that, and so there weren't the big 80s shows like Lost 80s back then
Right.
at all. So we were just kind of making our way around. We toured America a couple of times as this little band playing great but small gigs all over the place that kind of got us through to I think 2000. I remember, I think was the first time I bumped into the kind of the 80s crew, and we were doing a show with OMD, Paul Humphreys from OMD,
Nice.
and Claudia Brooken from Propaganda. We're up in Salt Lake City.
Okay.
Always been a great town for New Wave.
Yeah.
And did a few shows, and then Rob Wire started putting on the Lost 80s live things. And I got it. The last time I was over there, I think I played a few of those, and it was just the small House of Blues run that usually ended up in Mandalay Bay.
Right.
And there was just, a half a dozen shows. So then I didn't do any of that for a long time. I was just doing those kind of shows here, like Lost 80s Live, with a bunch of Australian singers with the backing band, would go out and tour. So yeah. And then I'd seen the Lost 80s show grow from House of Blues to those stadiums, and I thought, yep, I'll have a go, see how it goes.
Yeah. What an amazing evolution. It's really cool to see what Rob built with the Lost 80s Live sort of empire. And I think what I love more than anything is just, it's amazing to play in these great venues, but the community of bands, I feel like it's this huge family reunion, right? And I feel so connected to so many of you guys that, it's one thing when a flock of seagulls gets together, that us as a band, we've really grown close to each other this last year. Gord's been in the band a couple of years now, and we feel like
he's great.
He is great.
What a great guitar player. Yeah.
He and truly just the spirit of the band feels really good. And then you get a group of bands that are appreciative of each other. You talked about Martha Davis, the Motels Camp, like all those bands, I mean, Dramarama and Wang Chung, Josh and I have been like this, we've had this bromance, right, for many years.
Mm.
I adore his playing, and we're very close. Yeah, I feel like he's my brother,
Mm.
and uh, I feel like this sense of camaraderie in doing this show. It's not a coincidence that a lot of the people that I've been talking to are people that I'd normally be touring with, because I
Mm.
yearn for that. I
Mm.
am an extrovert. I love being out and connecting
Yeah.
with my buddies,
Yeah.
and I think, to me, the human contact, the human connection, to me is so important, that I love that with people that are coming to the shows too. When
Mm.
we're not playing on stage, I like getting out and getting to know everybody, because I'm so appreciative that they're there. Everybody
Oh,
has great
absolutely.
stories.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
so I feel like this is as close as we can get to that kind of connection, and
Absolutely.
it's important.
Absolutely. Oh,
But
for sure. For sure.
all that rock stuff aside, this is not as important as what's hanging on your microphone. Let's talk about koala bears and kangaroos, because that's another connection that you have that's really amazing. And you want to talk a little bit about rescue?
Well, yeah, we've had a terrible year apart from
Oh
the
God.
virus. We had the fires to start off with.
Right. Yeah. Here,
And
universe. You want to throw David in another speed bump?
it's you know the we have bad fires, on most years, and they're getting worse.
Yeah.
But this year it was the sheer loss of our native wildlife. The fact that it's so easy to film. You see it firsthand. You see
Yeah.
these poor animals these days. That was just a tragedy. We didn't. Thank God we didn't lose too many lives with the fires.
Right.
But boy, the amount of just wildlife, and all the wombats and the all sorts of creatures, quolls,
Oh,
everything,
tell me,
birds, all sorts of
please
stuff.
tell me a
Millions.
somewhat optimistic story about conservation there. I worked for Conservation Corps here in the United States for a while when I was in college and in high school. I worked in Yellowstone National Park, and I did a lot of work, environmental conservation.
Yeah.
When I found out that you were doing kangaroo rescue before those fires came, and you, Mike and Sina, came down as a flock of seagulls, and you got to connect them, I think, to
I
people.
I sort of I went to see them in Melbourne earlier this year.
Yeah.
But Sina was talking to me about that in the US last year.
Yeah.
And I remember we were talking with touring with Berlin here a few years ago. We had this great tour manager, guy Jono, and we were in Adelaide, not in Melbourne.
Right.
And there was a lady who was a rescuer, because a lot of there's the most animals you'll see that you want to see will be dead on the side of the road that are they've come out. The kangaroos, they come out at dusk, and they come out from nowhere
to get hit
and try to wander across the road. And quite often there's baby animals in their pouches. And so this one particular lady in Adelaide, she rescued all of these baby animals always, or anything that was hurt that she possibly could. And so she would bring a koala and a wallaby to this hotel in Adelaide, and we got to hug the koalas. And I've got some pictures. I've got a beautiful picture of Terry Nunn with a koala. And on that tour was also the guy who sings Boom Boom, Go Back to My Room was on there, and he was holding, stuff. He's like little babies. But the biggest one of all, and she had tears in her eyes, was Martika, was on the tour. And
Toy
Martika
soldiers.
she had a teddy bear koala when she was little, and she just sort of teared up. She's holding this koala. It's a beautiful photo, and she's like got tears streaming down her face.
Buddy,
so,
hold on a second.
The thing was,
I'm going to share a picture of Terry with the koala here.
Oh, so, you got that?
Yeah. That's.
Isn't that beautiful?
There's nothing cuter.
Yeah.
I mean, than a kangaroo. I'm sorry, baby kangaroo. I was thinking about this picture that Sina had sent me holding his koala, but so this was actually a rescue. This little kangaroo.
That's right. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And Stamford Plaza is the hotel that actually.
That's where I was, somewhere in the room there as well.
Okay.
With,
wow.
Martika and that. And the thing was that we all, of course, then went and donated to this lady, you know, and we went, oh, what a great job you're doing. So, and that was the interesting thing. I know how upset people were from all over the world, you know, when this was happening. And people were just sending donations to wildlife rescue and fire services and things. So it was that made the world feel a lot smaller and better too. And so that just kind of actually brought people together.
Yeah.
So it's a strange time. So then we've got this virus thing that in many, many ways is bringing people together, or you'd have to stay apart.
Right.
And now we've got the Black Lives Matter thing as well.
Yeah.
Which is, you know, shaking up the whole world. So I just hope that, you know, we can emerge better. Not,
you know, that,
you know, in the end, that we all have a really good think about, you know, our beautiful planet and how it's all connected, whether it's the wildlife or a virus that goes around or racial prejudice.
Right.
You know, it's just, we've got to do something about it.
There needs to be something for sure. You know, just before you and I hopped on, Alan Frew from Glass Tiger he had an Instagram live that he does a lot. It's almost on every day, playing music, and he'll talk to people about topical things. And lately, you know, it's been related to current events. And I've avoided any sort of volatility in that, because this is an opportunity for people to escape in a lot of ways. But Alan said, if anybody wants to come on and talk about this, hop on. So I jumped on his live Instagram just before you and I talked. And he said, you know, what do you think would help this? And I certainly don't have any answers. You know, one thing that I tried to do is I don't want the media to control, you know, my direction in any way. You know, personally, my own feelings are that I want to surround myself with dignified, positive people. You know, decency is really important to me, right? And accountability. And so if I can find people that are decent human beings that are accountable for their shit when they need to be. I love the fact that people want their voice to be heard, and I'm sad that people that are using their voice are letting that be overshadowed, you know, by violence. And you know, I think it's a discredit to people that really are trying to use peaceful protest to, you know, to end. You know, I do believe that people can come out better from the outcome of that virus. I think I've seen a whole bunch of people being productive and creative and treating each other with dignity and decency. I know that a lot of people are kind of coming apart at the seams because of the social isolation. And I'm hopeful, you know, that there's a way to kind of bring people together, even if it's like this. I mean, there's a loss of human contact that we really, really need, but there may be something that we can also do about appreciating each other more, you know, and longing for that contact, so that we don't take it for granted, you know? And that's,
you know, I think when the shows start, when the music starts, I think it's going to be really emotional. Actually, the first time either of us get to walk out on a stage that we haven't been for a while, where there's an audience that hasn't seen a band for a while, I think it's going to be very emotional after everything that we're all going through.
Oh yeah.
So music is a healing force.
It really is.
Yeah.
I'm grateful to Greg Ross for putting together that Abducted by the 80s back in the basement thing.
That's also got to do over the weekend too. I just
I mean, it is an opportunity for that. There's a lot of new music that's going to come out, and there is a connection with people. And I think I just really appreciate these sort of the respect that, you know, each band has for each other, and these, you know, not even just the bands, but really the connections we've made with people. And we've talked to so many people that you've met along the road, you know, and I've met, that are really wonderful human beings. You know, I'm looking at all these people that are in the Facebook chat, you know, Allie Breen, that just says, oh my gosh, you know, this is the album from the 90s. The Lifetime is amazing. And God Tonight needs to be the live show, Stan Kent says. And Allie Breen's just all over this thing.
Good morning, Stanley. You know, Stanley's a rocket scientist, you know.
Really?
Yeah, he really is.
That doesn't surprise me at all.
No, he looks like a mad professor, but he's actually a rocket scientist.
I was talking about how sophisticated you look with this quarantine beard. You know, if you get the rounded glasses more, right, and then you get a little hat.
I'm as blind as a bat.
Yeah. Well, it's all about the aesthetic.
I can't see if I do that.
Thomas Dolby glasses. That's what you need, right?
Yeah, but you know the problem with wearing glasses on stage. I'm not sort of vain. I wear contact lenses
Yeah.
on stage, but there's nothing worse than you're halfway through a solo and you realize your glasses are sliding. Your glasses are sliding down your nose.
Oh
You know, it's
man,
like, do I stop playing or do that?
yeah.
It's like,
It's when you have to look at charts or notes. That's
yeah,
Bill Wadhams is famous for that too. I love him to death, and he's got a pair of glasses that he puts over on his amp, and he's in between songs he'll try to adjust something, and he'll throw the glasses on where people aren't looking. And sorry, Bill, I didn't mean to out you there, but it is cute.
Oh.
So yeah. Oh, Alan Camp loves the beard actually. So.
Oh, I know Alan. He's in Queensland, I think.
Suzanne Lynn was just asking a question, and I'll answer this.
Okay.
She asked if the show in Catalina Island is still happening in September. So that's Labor Day weekend. Rob Juarez put this show together that had to be rescheduled. It was supposed to be in May, and then it's Labor Day weekend. As far as I know, that show is still on. They VIP tickets are all sold out. I'm not sure how people are getting to and from. I know that there's a boat. I've been in Catalina many times, and I love it over there. I think September to me is I will just say I'm hoping for the best. I'm planning for the worst. I have not yet bought my ticket down there, but I hope it happens in a way that people are taken care of in a healthy way. We don't want to extend the virus. We really want to, make sure that we take care of people, and I'm desperate to get on stage, but not desperate enough to put people in danger, No.
I think we're going to know a whole lot more about it by then too. I know people, knowledge is, they're learning more and more about it daily. We've almost got it under control here. We've only lost 102 people or something.
The entire,
yeah,
all of Australia, the entire continent, or Melbourne?
Not all of Australia. Not all.
Are you kidding me?
No.
Okay.
We just locked down New Zealand. New Zealand haven't had a case for 3 weeks.
Wow. Amazing.
So we're still maybe getting about 10 a day or something.
Okay.
But we've only lost 103 people. Only it's
well, you know what? I mean, it's never to discredit any of that, but that's a blessing, and one would hope, that we can find a vaccine soon.
Yeah.
And I am concerned about the gatherings that are happening right now, about the spike. But like I said, I'm hoping for the best in all of this. I think the more that we can take care of each other and listen to each other, make your voice heard, be willing to listen to other people instead of shutting them out. I think that connection is really going to bring people together emotionally, even if we can't be together physically. I really, really value the time that I get to have with my friends right here. This is really special to me, man. But you're on the other side of the earth.
Me too. I mean, it's so funny. It's so funny. I finally turned this thing on thinking, I bet you I can't get out to work. And then all of a sudden there's Kevin.
Boom.
Lifestyle Kevin.
You got up at 8 o'clock in the morning to talk to me.
No, I got up at 6:30.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
I was so nervous, and it was still dark then. Daylight starts at about 8:30, and I had to have a couple of double espresso coffees. So I had to get up and have a shower, and then wander up the street in the dark and get coffee.
Oh, how honored am I that you got dressed and coffee.
I am a morning person anyway. Yeah.
So non-traditional musician, right?
I even after a late night with the band, I still have to get up, especially if I'm somewhere away from home. I have to get up and walk around. Otherwise, you don't see anything.
That's true. Yeah.
And on the tour last time, played New York. How was New York? Didn't see it. How was Chicago? Didn't see it. How was Detroit? Didn't see it.
Yeah.
How was San Antonio? I saw a bit of that.
You did.
But other than that, I've got this fleeting view of crossing a bridge in New York and seeing the Statue of Liberty off in the distance, and going, "Oh, I'm in New York."
But you didn't get to spend any time
to the airport. No, it was flying. Well, there were, those, there was groups of 3 mostly the gigs, so it was flying to one and next all flying.
Right.
We didn't drive until the 6 in a row in Texas when we started. I forget where we started in Corpus Christi or somewhere, and there was a run of 6.
That's right.
Shows, and that was Nick and me and the boys in the car, Joe Mendez and Jesse and Arthur. Yeah,
that's right. Artie on bass, Jesse on guitar, Joe on drums.
Arthur's a funny guy. I love
him. He is.
I love them all, but God, he's a funny guy. He's a real gentleman.
He has
And
the funniest dance on stage. That's what I love. He has this little.
Yeah, he's great. And he loves eating. You know, he's right into the catering.
Oh yeah.
So and we'll be forever stopping on the road. You know, Arnie, and I'd sort of, you know, go, Arnie, you know, I've got to feed you. You have my share. You know,
Yeah.
It's so funny.
There was usually enough food to go around for the most part. You know, like
yeah. But
you remember
I worried about Arnie, Arthur. Yeah.
Corpus Christi had all the barbecue, and
Yes.
but it disappeared fast.
Oh yeah.
Know? There's some stories
that
about
was that incredibly hot on stage. It was so humid. The concrete amphitheater, whatever it was.
Yeah, that's exactly what it was called. Yeah.
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 Yeah. But it was good. That was good because they had a great hotel that were, I think, mostly staying. Were you staying in a hotel that night?
Corpus Christi.
Yeah. Now you might have been driving.
Well, I came in. I flew in. The band drove over from San Diego, so I stayed. Flew in just in time for the show. But I did stay. I think we stayed that night in Corpus Christi. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. It was a big hotel, but there was a great bar there, and it was kind of also initial bonding sessions. I had, you know, Todd, the stage guy, said, David, let's have a drink. You and I are going to have a drink tonight. I went, yes.
You got a nice impersonation of him.
So you kind of, what did he make me say? There's something, he says, no one says something like you Australians. I forget what it is. But he'd keep
like
saying,
you Australians. Don't you love that?
No, he'd say, it was something like, you know, like a curse, you're a pain in the ass or something. I think what it was, he'd make me say all the time. He says, no one says that like Australians.
Fucking hell.
So, but that was also, you know, early shows bonding time where there were a few people you didn't know. And I was so grateful that he said, come on, Dave, we're going to have a drink tonight.
He is so funny. Oh my gosh. And then,
you know, you get to know everyone a little bit more along the way. The people I did know and people I kind of didn't know that I hadn't met before. But you're made to feel welcome very, very quickly by all of them. So.
I miss that as much as I do being on stage. You know, I really do. But you know, that's why I'm doing this, man.
I remember one of the big ones for me was meeting the Tubes. And more from White Punks on Dope back in the day. I remember the night that I heard and saw that video, and I'll never forget it. And I'm thinking, oh wow, Tubes, it's amazing. And they joined the show in Chicago at the Aragon Ballroom. That beautiful place,
beautiful,
huge place. Catering wasn't so good. It was just like pizza.
Bad pizza.
Oh yuck.
Yeah.
But I'm thinking, wow, you know, Fee Waybill's going to be here in a minute. So I'm sharing the dressing room with the Vapors, and Fee barges in, and he's a tall man. He's larger than life, and you go, your jaw drops. It's Fee Waybill, and he starts talking. There was a bridge right outside the theater that had a low clearance height. He says, well, last time we were here, you know, our truck with our PA drove straight under that bridge and smashed the whole roof off. So,
oh no.
You know, he's walking and telling you stories like he's known you for years and years and years. And you know, you go, oh, it's Fee Waybill.
Amazing. So many good stories with him. But at the Greek, he came over because drum company that I play with, Spawn Drums, brought me this.
I've seen that. Good looking kit.
The acrylic drums. Remember that?
Yeah,
I had the
beautiful.
clear. And he came out and he said, tell me about this drum set. And I remember Brian Spawn, the owner of the company, was taking all these pictures of Fee, asking me about that kid. But Fee really is an endearing, wonderful, you know, just down to earth guy. And man, stories, right? That guy's got
such
crazy
a character.
Well,
the whole history of the Tubes, you know, and then I kind of went back and did a YouTube journey, you know, of all these things. And, you know, hearing some interviews with him as well. They had this show they were playing in San Francisco where they faked an earthquake, and it looked so real.
Oh my God.
He would sort of say, look, you know, we'd be getting paid $1 million, but we'd be spending $2 million on the show. So we never made any money. And the shows were so elaborate. And the way he wore those high heels and still wears them.
Those boots,
you know, you think, you know, how many times would you have nearly broken your ankle wearing those things? You know,
he's a pro, man. That guy's a pro for sure.
Absolutely,
Bob Brazelton, missing persons tour manager, just says, "Hey, please wish David the best for me."
And hello to Bob and the missing persons.
Yeah,
Dale and Dale and everyone. Great new record from her. Great new
Yeah,
record.
I was
Yeah.
really, really impressed, man. I think it's a good record too. And they'll be one of those bands I think that's going to be on this Catalina show with us. So I can't wait to catch up with them. I've got one more question from you, from one of your fans here. Stan Kent asked, he said, speaking of rock and science, what's the story behind Here Come the Spaceman off Siren?
Okay. Well, there's a song called, it's going to start at we're kind of like we're sleepwalking. I'm thinking with all the troubles, the only thing that might unite us is an invasion from Mars.
Oh, yeah.
And so the song starts out, the world is asleep, so come as you are, interplanetary missionary from afar. There's no need to fear, the coast is clear. Gravity won't let you down. And then it says, but down from the stars there's been a message from Mars. Here come the spacemen. And it's a full-on fun song. It's great.
I love that.
It's on the side too. But yeah, so Here Come the Spacemen is about, okay, they could just walk in and take over. We're so distracted by everything else, you know.
But you think that will unite us? A visit
Probably not.
Let's hope.
You know, and when you see that scientists are looking for new planets and stuff, we're going to take all this shit to another planet.
Well,
we're going to take all this crap to another planet.
I got to tell you, the other day I did an interview with a friend of mine, Johnny Monaco. He's the funniest cat. When we hang out, he lives in Chicago, and he was he fronted a glam band. Enough's Enough was the band that he fronted for a long time, and he's so funny. He's a curmudgeon, you know. He's cut up, but when I talked to him off camera, he has me in tears every time. So I built up this conversation saying, this guy's going to, completely, knock you off your feet. He's so funny. And just before we talked on camera, he had me laughing. I'm just crying. I could hardly breathe. But then as soon as we started, he put the news on right off camera. And while we had this conversation, he's watching the riots going on. And I said, buddy, listen, change the channel. This is Tuesday. People were transferring from the pod to the space station at that point. And I said, I had just watched, the NASA Tesla combination, the first commercial vehicle landing, connecting to the space station, which to me, one of those moments in my lifetime that I think this is history. This is gorgeous and beautiful. And I couldn't wait to, go back to the NASA channel and watch this thing. And I was blown away by it. And that's one of those things that brings people together because, you've got different nationalities on the space station, and they're all united to do something great for the common good. And so I told him, turn your news off, just change the channel, please. But the Spaceman, I think, what an amazing time to get right now where we can focus on things that are a little less, sort of focused on color of our skin or, our religion or anything like that. And,
the environment is so important too, just the health of the planet. But, I have no doubt that you put people together, they all get along well together, usually united by music or art or something. We're divided by politics and religion to a certain extent, and some people who just want to have some sort of power. They've got no great uniting plan for the planet. And all this stuff should really be bringing us together. I think it's brought the people together, but the leaders just seem to be,
you're right,
all they do is threaten each other and threaten the economy and threaten this and threaten that. And you just think, shut up. Yeah, I love that old video of Frankie Goes to Hollywood, Two Tribes.
Right.
I think it was
the Two Tribes
Boris
Go to War.
And Ronald Reagan.
That's right.
Fighting in a ring. You think, okay, put them all in a ring. Let's see.
Or
then we can at least have a bet.
Why don't we just get them all at a Lost 80s show where they can just let go of all that stuff and just really enjoy themselves, right? Because maybe that'll bring
in 80s clothes. Yeah.
That'll be bringing, that'll bring people together a little bit. Well, let's hope that. So that's if it's not Visitors from Mars, let's hope for unification through music. Let's just make sure that that's the theme for this episode. We're just going to say, one will hope that music will unite us, whether it be leaders or just us as individuals. That's kind of out of our control, but you and I, we can bring people together at a smaller level, right? So I can't wait for people to check out Sirens. I'll definitely post the link to your email.
They mightn't like it.
Yeah, I can't wait to hear it. And I know I'm definitely when the pressing comes out, I definitely want to order the vinyl, but I want you to sign it for me, please.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
Of course.
And I can't even tell you how much I miss you, and I respect and admire you, my friend. It's
Kevin.
yeah, it's the truth, man. You really I can't wait. And hopefully I get to come over and visit you in Melbourne so you can give me a little
About time, one of these days. What a
yeah.
pity that you weren't here in what was it, January,
Yeah.
whatever it was.
It is
Yeah,
a pity.
that's the first time that Mike Score had been to Australia. What? Yeah. I guess he was looking, as an Englishman, he was looking down his nose at the colony, the Australian
No.
colony.
You know what happens is
I'm joking, of course.
He said that many times they had asked a flock of seagulls to come over because it's such a journey to get there. It's very expensive to fly the whole band over.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
So it made sense.
That's what it comes down to. I mean, have a great band here that I wish I could take to America or to anywhere else. But you make nothing. It'll just cost you. You'll be in debt if you do it.
Right.
So,
I understood why, but it's on my list of places to go. So whether I go with a flock of seagulls or I go just to come visit my friend David Sterry.
I always volunteer to take. I love my city. In fact, Suzanne, that's been on this morning, she was in Sydney when the virus thing hit, and she was about to come down to Melbourne. And I love my city, and I love taking people around there. I took the Berliners on a clothes shopping tour.
Did you?
Last time they were here. Yeah, I love my city. We've got these beautiful arcades and laneways and coffee shops, and I love taking people around. So if ever you're here,
I would love that. Yeah, I'm saving up. I'm saving my first Melbourne trip to.
But the thing is, you know what? People come out and they don't realize that Australia is physically as big as America.
Right.
And they think that you say, "Oh, we're coming out. How long are you going to be here? Oh, a week." And you go, "Oh,
yeah, good luck."
I'm not going to see anything. Yeah, good luck.
Right. If they can spend a week in Sydney, a week in Melbourne.
Yeah.
We talked a little bit about the reef. My youngest son Nolan wants to be a marine biologist, and he really wanted to study conservation and be able to go to the reef and study, the degradation.
Well, that's in danger, of course, the reef. And there's still crazy licenses for mining going on within the area, or ships coming in, oil ships and things. It's like, wake up.
Hopefully the youth will come up with ways to help that conservation and bring some of this
we were
back.
supposed to do that, weren't we? We were the ones that were going to give peace a chance. We were going to be the ones that solved it, and we haven't done very well.
So present company excluded. You're doing a good job with it. I'm trying to do the same,
We're all trying,
Yeah, just spread the word and channel positivity, my friend.
Yeah.
I'm just, I can't tell you how much I appreciate you being here, buddy. You got up early. And for those of you that are finishing your work week and you're hanging out with David and I, be good to each other. Really, it's important to me that we all treat each other well. And I know Suzanne said she's still sad that she didn't get to see you. But
she will another day. She'll come back.
She will. And you know what she can do? She can go to watch the Abducted by the 80s Back to the Basement event on June 13th and see Lily V there.
Absolutely. Yes. And I'm going to be on there too. Yeah.
So for those of you just tuning in, go to www.abductedbythe80s.com. On June 13th, there's a magical event where a bunch of bands from the 80s are going to be getting together. There'll be some live performances. There'll be some pre-recorded performances. Special guests are downtown Julie Brown. Richard Blade will be there. And you've got Flock of Seagulls, Real Life, The Vapors, The Escape Club, Animotion, New Shoes, just a bunch of bands, Wang Chung. And so www.abductedbythe80s.com has more information. You can sign up for contests, and it'll be June 13th. So I want to thank David Sterry, my brother, for being here.
Thank you, Kevin. Thank you so much. This is great what you're doing. And you're doing it very well. It's very entertaining. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, well, it's just, for me, it's selfish just because I get to see you and I love you. So thank you, buddy. Have a wonderful weekend. And everybody else, I'll talk to you guys tomorrow with my wonderful friend, Catherine Richer.
See you, everybody.
Thanks, Dave. Bye-bye now.